Hey, what is up everyone? This is Jake Pimentel here from Pime Technology, and today I have a tutorial on how to root the Motorola Edge Plus. I'm also adding in a part that shows you how to root the Motorola Edge Plus as well. I'm guessing that a lot of other people are gonna want to do this because Android 14 was actually just released for this device on the retail firmware. So I'm sure a lot of you are going to want to go ahead and flash to Android 14 if it hasn't hit via a over-the-air update already. With rooting, you do have to have your bootloader unlocked. I already had my bootloader unlocked on my phone, and it's difficult to relock the bootloader and then unlock it again. So I went ahead and linked to someone else's video that was really good that showed how to do it. And I'll also leave a few links in the description to some resources on how to bootloader unlock the Motorola Edge Plus, but that'll be the first thing you're going to want to do. Then after you bootloader unlock, I walk you through the flashing process. You can skip the flashing process if you don't want to flash to a new firmware, if you just want to stay on your current firmware. And then last but not least, I put in a section on how to root the Motorola Edge Plus 2023, which is what I'm sure a lot of you are here for. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. First and foremost, we want to make sure that your phone is backed up. So go ahead into settings and go to the bottom and you're going to see the system settings. Click on system, and in the middle there it says backup. Go ahead and click on backup and make sure that you back up your phone with Google One or your Google Drive. So that way all your data will be moved over. So that way you don't lose anything, because this process does factory reset your device. So if you don't want to lose any of your data, your contacts, your apps, anything like that, you do want to make sure that the phone is backed up first and foremost. So make sure that this completes, and then you can go ahead and move on to the next step. The next important step is to download the Motorola drivers for your computer. I will leave a link down in the description to any link or software that I use in this video. So this is going to be found on Motorola's website direct. It's the drivers. Depending on which operating system you're using, you're going to download the respective one for each operating system. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and download the version for Mac OS because I'm using Mac OS. And all you have to do is, once it's downloaded, is go ahead and run the installer to install it on your computer. This will allow you to connect your Motorola Edge Plus 2023 to your computer. Without it, you could have issues with the computer recognizing it. So you want to make sure that you install these. That way you don't run into any issues during the process of rooting the device, because we don't want to have any issues while it's happening, because it can lead to corruption and stuff like that. So we just want to install the drivers to ensure that there are no issues. The next step in the process is to unlock the bootloader on your Motorola Edge Plus if you haven't done it already. If you've done it already, like I have, you can skip this step. But if you have not unlocked the bootloader, or you haven't heard of that before, then you likely haven't unlocked your bootloader, and you'll need to follow these steps in order to do it. I'm going to leave a link down in the description to Motorola's direct website, which gives the instructions on how to go ahead and unlock your device. And I know some people are likely not already familiar with ADB and FASTBOOT. So I did find this YouTube video from Atham Saraf, and I highly recommend giving it a watch. It is very accurate and explains exactly how you go ahead and do it in the ADB tools and through the Motorola website. You can just follow his instructions exactly, and it will unlock the bootloader for you. And also, when you unlock the bootloader, it does reset your device. So as I mentioned in the first step, make sure your device is backed up, because you will lose your data when you do the bootloader unlock, as well as the rooting process. So go ahead and make sure your device is backed up, and go ahead and unlock the bootloader. All right, so once your bootloader is unlocked, you can go ahead and go into settings, And ensure that you enable USB debugging in the developer options. So I'm just going to go ahead and search for USB debugging. I have developer options enabled already. If you don't know how to enable developer options, what you do is you go into About Phone, and then you're going to see the build number for the software at the bottom. You're going to go ahead and tap that about 5 times, and it will open developer settings for you. Like I said, I already have developer options enabled, but once you have developer option enabled, just search for USB debugging or go into the developer options, and then you want to make sure that that's blue and that's on. So make sure you turn USB debugging on. That is what allows us to do this whole process. The next step will be to download the SDK platform tools for Android. This is what allows developers to interface with the Android platform using ADB and FASTBOOT, which is exactly what we will be using to root the Motorola Edge Plus. So you can go ahead and click on the respective link for your operating system. I'm going to leave this link in the description down below, as all the links in this video. This is a Mac, so I'm going to go ahead and download the platform tools for Mac. We're going to go ahead, agree to the terms and conditions, and then click download for Mac. Next, we're going to go ahead and find it in Finder, and then I recommend dragging this to the desktop and putting it on your desktop because we want to make sure we have easy access to this throughout the process, and you know exactly where it is. It's going to make it much easier when we go into command prompt or terminal as well. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this to the desktop, and then I'm also going to go ahead and make a folder here that's going to make things a lot easier later on, and I'm going to name it Motorola root. And I'm going to go ahead and extract this, which on Mac you just click on it and it just extracts it right to the desktop. On Windows you can use a zip extractor software. So I'm going to go ahead and put the old zip file in the trash because we don't need that anymore. And I'm going to drag our platform tools folder into the Motorola root folder on our desktop, which we will be referencing throughout the rest of the video. And that is it. Once you have your platform tools downloaded, unzipped, and in a folder, that's all there is to it. Pretty easy to install. The next thing that you are going to want to do is download the firmware from Motorola for the device. So this is the flash file. This is the file that contains the software that's on the device. But before you do that, if you are using a dish variant of the phone, as I'm sure many of you are in my audience, you want to check to see which version you're on, because you're going to want to download the correct firmware file that is the same as your phone. So in my case, I flashed to the retail firmware already, but I'm going to bet most of you guys did not do that. So you're going to be on the Boost firmware, which you can see right here. So go ahead into settings, and then you're going to go to software system updates, and you're going to click check for updates, and then it's going to show which version you are on. So in this case, I'm on the latest version, Android 14 U1TR34.8-30-13. So you want to take note of that software version, and when you go to the mirrorslolly.net, which has the firmware files for the Motorola phones, you're going to want to go into your respective folder for the type of software you have. Like I said, most of you are going to be under here, under Boost, and most of you are probably going to be on the latest software, which is 43-48-41-3. So you'll want to go ahead and download that if you're on that dish software. If you are on a different software, like Retail or Retail US, you want to go in those respective folders and download the proper software for your device. So in this case, I have the retail software on my phone with Android 14 with this exact same version number. So in order to download it, you want to go ahead and just click on it. And they are pretty big files. This one for my phone is about 4.7 gigabytes. So they're right about there. So depending on your internet connection, it can take a little while to download, but just go ahead and let that download onto your computer. Once that file has finished downloading, as you can see it has here on my computer, you want to go ahead and locate that file. In this case, it downloaded to my downloads folder. So you're going to want to go ahead and drag that zip file to the desktop, and we're going to want to put it in that folder that we set up to do this process. So this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and drag it into the Motorola root folder. Now we want to go ahead and extract that. So I'm going to go ahead and extract that on my Mac. It's a pretty big file, so it can take a little while to extract. Now, within this file is contained the entire firmware for the Motorola device. Now, for the rooting process, you don't need all of those files. But if you are going to flash your device to a new firmware or upgrade your device to new software through flashing, you will need all of the files that are in here. So I'll actually go ahead and show you guys how to flash your Motorola Edge Plus if you want to. You can flash it to the retail firmware, which gives you Android 14, or you can just stay on the Dish software. If you're using the Dish SIM in this device, I would recommend just keeping it on the Dish firmware. There really aren't a lot of issues with the Dish firmware. It works perfectly fine. There's just a few things that Dish kind of closes out. So for most people, I'd recommend just staying on the Dish firmware. And if you're staying on the Dish firmware, you can ignore the flashing steps and just skip to the part where I begin showing the rooting steps. Let's go back to our original folder with our software in it. And what we want to do is take all of these files that are in this folder right here, and we want to copy them to the platform tools folder or drag them to the platform tools folder. So I'm going to go ahead and copy, and then I'm going to go to the platform tools folder where you see all the other files, ADB, FASTBOOT, and we're going to go ahead and paste them into here. So we're going to paste all those 33 items into that folder. This is going to make it much easier to do the flashing and so that everything is set up properly. So make sure you do this step. Make sure all those files that we downloaded from the firmware for the Motorola are in the platform tools folder with ADB with FASTBOOT. Alright, so these are the steps if you are flashing your Motorola to a new firmware or want to flash your Motorola to a different firmware or just flash your Motorola software for any reason. So the first step in flashing would be to plug your Motorola into the computer. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it into my Mac here. Once you plug it in, it's gonna show a few different options. You can just go ahead and click out of that. We're just gonna be using the USB debugging option in this case, so it doesn't really matter. So now we're gonna wanna go ahead and open our platform tools folder in Terminal. So in this case, you can go ahead on a Mac and just go here and then where it says new terminal at folder, just click open. And that'll go ahead and open terminal at that folder. It's pretty much the same process on a Windows computer. You go ahead and right click the folder and then you open in command prompt or one of the other command line softwares that's on Windows. Now once we're in command prompt or terminal on my Mac, we want to go ahead and run the command period /ADB devices. Now Damien wasn't running, so it's going to go ahead and turn on USB Debugging ADB, and as you can see, we can see my device in the prompt there, which is the ZY22GVSWTZ. If it doesn't show up, your device may pull up a prompt when you run that command to allow the computer to access your device. Just go ahead and click that and click allow so that your Motorola can access, or your computer can access the Motorola. Now the next step would be to get into FASTBOOT mode. To get into FASTBOOT mode, you're going to run the command /ADB reboot space bootloader. And then you're going to click return. That's going to go ahead and put our device into FASTBOOT mode. And that is where we're going to run all the commands to flash all the files to the Motorola Edge Plus. If you haven't seen the FASTBOOT screen before, it looks like this. It has a little Android guy with the front of his belly open. Before I get ahead of myself, one more command that you want to run to make sure that the computer recognizes that the device is in FASTBOOT mode would be /FASTBOOT devices. And as you can see, my device shows up, same code as before in ADB, FASTBOOT, but now it says FASTBOOT. So that means that my device is being recognized by the computer, and it is recognizing that it is in FASTBOOT mode. To make it easier for everybody, I'm going to include two documents in the description. One for the latest Android 14 and one for Android 13. They actually do have slightly different commands for flashing. So I'll go ahead and leave those text documents in the description. You can go ahead and download that. It's going to make it so much easier for you to flash this device instead of doing each command individually. So here are all the commands that you use to flash the Motorola Edge Plus. The difference between the Android 13 flashing process of commands and the Android 14 is that Android 14 has added one more super.image sparse chunk file. So now there is a super.image sparse chunk 12. So I'll leave a link to both different types. So you can just download the one for your software. If you're flashing Android 13, use the Android 13 one. If you're flashing Android 14, use the Android 14 one. All right, so once you have the correct file with the commands in it, you're going to go ahead and copy them to your clipboard. So go ahead and copy them, and then you're going to go ahead back to your terminal, which is in the Platform Tools folder, and you're going to go ahead and paste these commands to the prompt. So we're going to go ahead and paste them, and it automatically will go through and flash everything to your device. So as you can see, it's flashing the radio. So it's doing everything on its own, flashing the vendor boot, flashing the recovery, flashing the super images. It's doing everything on its own. It makes this process so much easier because you can also type them in individually, but it takes like 10 times the amount of time. So definitely recommend using the commands and just copying and pasting them into command prompt on Windows or terminal on Mac. Usually this takes about maybe 5 minutes, if that. Really depends on your computer and how it processes everything. But in my case, it usually takes at most about 5 minutes. And while it's flashing, it should stay on the FASTBOOT screen. So you'll just see it on the FASTBOOT screen. You won't see anything visually happening on the phone. It'll just sit on that same FASTBOOT screen. You don't need to click any buttons or anything like that. Just leave the phone alone. It's doing everything between the computer and the phone through the cable. Now, if any of these commands were to fail, for some reason this happens on my Windows PC, but it doesn't happen on my Mac. So that's why I'm using my Mac for this tutorial. But if it does happen, just see the ones that failed. Let's say it's Superchunk 12 or Superchunk 11 or something else. Whatever fails, whatever command fails, just rerun that command. It can happen from time to time. No worries. Don't unplug the phone or anything. Just rerun the commands to the phone. And it's really that simple. So if that does happen, don't worry too much. Just rerun those commands. But I think most people won't have any issues. As you can see, all of my commands are going through perfectly fine on my MacBook. So no issues here. All right, and then it might have you manually enter in the last command, which is to erase user data. That's going to delete everything from your phone. Go ahead and click return, and boom, it erased everything from your phone. So now, once the commands have fully been processed, you're going to go ahead and click the power button on your Motorola Edge Plus. So that's going to go ahead and start the phone back up. And when I start the phone back up, you'll see right here the bootloader is unlocked. And I'm sure that video I referenced, I'm sure he also references this. This shows that your bootloader is unlocked. It's like a confirmation. Motorola is just kind of warning you, your bootloader is unlocked. You can flash like software, custom software, blah, 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 blah. So it might do this a few times, might restart a few times. Don't worry about that. Let it go ahead and do its thing. And then eventually, after a few times, it's going to give us this screen. This is a good screen. So you're going to want to go ahead and click volume down, and you're going to want to click factory data reset. And then go ahead and click the volume down one more time and click factory data reset. This is going to reset everything off the phone and get us into the operating system. So we're going to go ahead and do that. You'll see at the bottom corner a little command line there. And it's going to go ahead and wipe all the data from the device. And once that's done, you're going to see it boot up one more time. This time, it should just boot up once. It's not going to restart a few times like it did before. It's going to boot right into the software. So let's go ahead and wait for this to boot up.
Hello, Moto.
All right, perfect. And just like that, you can see we're back into the operating system, and we have successfully flashed software to our Motorola Edge Plus. In this case, we flashed the new Android 14 to this device, which was just released the other day. Side note, if you do follow the flashing tutorial and then want to go ahead and root the Motorola Edge Plus, which I'm guessing is many of you, make sure you go ahead and set up the device. So the first thing you want to do is set this up. You could actually put all your stuff on it if you'd like to. I just remembered that rooting doesn't actually reset the phone. It's just the bootloader unlock and the flashing of firmware that resets the phone. Rooting the phone does not actually reset the software. So you can go ahead and set up the phone, get all your stuff on it, or just set it up with nothing on it, and then move ahead with the rooting process. So I'm going to go ahead and reset up my Motorola Edge Plus right now. Alright, so step number 1 to rooting the Motorola Edge Plus 2023 is that you're going to want to go ahead and go to Google Chrome on your device and go to the GitHub link that I leave down in the description, which is going to have the Magisk APK file, which you cannot download from the Google Play Store. So you're going to want to go ahead to under Assets and click on the first link where it says Magisk. In this case, it's version 27 APK. It's going to download. And once that's done downloading, go ahead and open it. Settings, and make sure you allow Google Chrome to download apps from unknown sources. We're going to allow this source. And then it's going to prompt you to install Magisk. Click Install. Once Magisk is installed, go ahead and open it up. And that's what Magisk looks like. So for the next step, we're going to go ahead and move back to the computer to transfer a file to the Motorola Edge Plus, which will be the file that we're going to flash to the phone to root it. So see you back on the computer. Alright, go ahead and plug your Motorola Edge Plus back into your computer and set it to file transfer so that you can transfer files from your computer to the Motorola. Okay, so once we're back on the computer, we want to go back to the RTWO file, which is the firmware for the Motorola that we downloaded earlier, and we want to find one specific file, which is the init_boot.image. This is the file that we're going to be patching using the Magisk APK in order to root the phone. So you want to go ahead and take this file, copy it, and then you're going to want to put it in. Alright, so on Windows, you can just transfer the file to the Motorola just by dragging and dropping it into the files systems on the Motorola. Now, Mac makes it a little more complicated. You can't actually do that. So you can also use this if you're using Windows too, but what I'm doing is I'm just dropping the file into my Google Drive. So we want to go ahead and go back to that folder, find the init_boot.image file, which you can see right here, and we want to drag and drop that into our Google Drive. Pretty small file, shouldn't take that long to upload. Looks like it's 8 megabytes. So once you have it in your Google Drive, we're going to go ahead and go back to our Android device and go into our Google Drive and find that file. Alright, so my Google Drive just suggested the file to me since I just uploaded it. So what you want to go ahead and do is download that init_boot file to your Android device. And once that's downloaded, you want to go ahead and find where that downloaded to your phone. So in this case, it just downloaded directly to my downloads folder. So now you're going to go back into the Magisk APK. You're going to go ahead where it says Magisk, click Install. You're going to select and patch a file. And then you're going to look for the init_boot.image file. Click on the init_boot.image file and click Let's Go. That's going to go ahead and patch that file so that we can go ahead and root the device. So there we go. It has successfully patched the init_boot file. So we're going to go ahead back to our files and find that. And it ended up putting it in the downloads folder along with the other files. So now we want to go ahead and take this file. If you're on a Windows PC, you can just drag it back to your Windows PC. But if you're on a Mac like me or just want to follow the same method, I'm going to go ahead and upload it to my Google Drive. So we're going to go ahead and click Share, Google Drive. It's called Magisk Patched. That's going to be the file that we're going to be using. And then I'm going to put it in the folder I set up, Root Moto, and then click Select and Save. That's going to go ahead and upload this file to our Google Drive. So now let's go back to the computer, and we can see that we have the Magisk patch file. We want to go ahead and download that to the computer. As I mentioned earlier, for ease of access and ease of use, I'm going to go ahead and put that file back into the same folder that we've been using for everything so far. So let's go ahead and wait for this to download. There we go. Let's find it in Finder, and we're going to drag this to, actually, we want to go ahead and drag this into our platform tools folder. So we're going to go ahead and open our original folder called Motorola Root. We're going to click on Platform Tools, and we're going to drag the Magisk patch file directly into the Platform Tools folder. So we're just going to drag, drop. So we want to make sure that the Magisk patch file is in with the ADB in FASTBOOT in the Platform Tools folder. All right, now that our Magisk patch file is in the Platform Tools folder, we're going to go ahead and open up a terminal in that Platform Tools folder again, like we did when we flashed. If you didn't flash, you want to open the Platform Tools folder in Terminal. I just showed you how to do it on Mac. It's pretty much the same process for Windows. Right-click it, open in Command Prompt or Terminal. So the first thing we want to do back on the phone is make sure that USB debugging is enabled. Now, I showed this earlier, but we want to make sure that if you're just doing the rooting process, that you have USB debugging enabled. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that developer options are enabled. My developer options are enabled. If you don't know how to enable it, you go down to About Phone and then go to the build number and just tap that 5 times and it will open up developer. I'm already a developer, so you go into developer options, and as you can see, USB debugging is not on because I just reset this device. So we want to enable USB debugging, click allow and OK. Now USB debugging is connected. I'm going to go back to my computer and allow this accessory to connect to my Mac. And my phone is asking me if I want to allow USB debugging. Click always allow from this computer and click allow. And that will allow us to interact with ADB on the computer. So now that we have that all set up and going, we want to run the command /ADB devices. And as we can see, my device is listed there. If it's not listed, make sure that your phone is connected to the computer and that USB debugging is enabled on your device, and you've allowed it to the computer to access the device. Now we're going to go ahead and run the command /ADB reboot bootloader. This is going to put us into FASTBOOT mode, which is the mode that we will use to flash the Magisk patch file to the phone in order to root the device. And this is the same software we used to flash the new software to the Motorola. So now we want to make sure that our phone is recognized by the computer in FASTBOOT mode. So we want to do the command /FASTBOOT devices. And as we can see, my phone is showing up FASTBOOT. Now we want to go ahead and run the command /FASTBOOT flash init _boot space. Now I recommend going back to the Platform Tools folder, locating the Magisk patch file, dragging and dropping that into the command prompt or terminal line, just like I'm doing here. Once you paste it in there, it's going to know exactly which file to patch. I'm going to go ahead and click return. And that's going to flash the init_boot file to my phone. And as you can see, it finished in just about 0.3 seconds. So very quick process. Now that this has been completed on the computer, we're going to go back to our Motorola Edge Plus. We're going to go ahead and click the power button to start the phone back up. This is going to boot the phone back into the software. And in this case, we're just rooting the phone, so it doesn't actually reset the phone. All your stuff will still be on there if once we reboot it. Now, there can be issues that occur when, rooting a device, so that's why I always recommend backing up. Backing up is just always such an important step. You should always do it with your phone. But yeah, our phone is booted back up, and we can go ahead and unlock it, and we now have a rooted Motorola Edge Plus 2023. So how do we check to make sure that we're rooted? Well, in order to check to make sure that you're rooted, you can go right into the Magis app that we downloaded earlier. And in this case, the Motorola Edge Plus requires one additional setup to get it rooted, and Magis automatically prompts you to do it. So just go ahead and click where it says requires additional setup, just click OK. And Magis will do the entire process for you. It'll restart your phone so that the root properly applies to your Motorola Edge Plus 2023. So our phone's going to go ahead and restart. And now, once we restart, the Motorola Edge Plus will be rooted. I always forget about that last step on the Motorola. Most devices, that would be it, but the Motorola just requires one extra step when you go into the app.
Hello, Moto.
You hear that infamous Motorola boot up chime that everybody loves. Alright, so we are back into the Motorola Edge Plus. We're going to go back to Magisk, and now we're good. So you can see at the bottom there that it says uninstall Magisk. That means that we have successfully rooted the Motorola Edge Plus. And now what you can do is get access to root features. Like, for example, one that's very popular in my telecom community is the Network Signal Guru app, which is this app right here. And then when you go into the app, it's going to prompt you, do you want to give it super SU rights? And you want to go ahead and click grant. This is what is going to give it permission to root on your phone. Go ahead and click allow to all those other options. And now you will have full access to Network Signal Guru, including being able to force certain bands and seeing how much throughput you're getting on the network, what bands you're connected to, how much carrier aggregation is going on. As you can see, I'm currently connected to the Dish network on band N71 with a -105 dBm signal. So, and you can see tons and tons and tons and tons of network stats that you wouldn't normally be able to see on an Android device without root. So really, really cool stuff here, being able to have root on the Motorola phone. Alright, so that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys found it helpful. It's not too difficult to root the Motorola Edge Plus. The hardest process is probably the flashing aspect of it, but like I said, you don't need to flash the phone if you don't want to. But I also did include the flashing process in there. Alright, so that is going to be it for this video. I'm sure you guys will still probably have a lot of questions. If you do have any questions, put them down in the comments down below, or feel free to even message me on Twitter or reach out to me on Twitter. I can also help you there, but I'll also be looking at the comments. If you have any questions, sometimes there are weird things that pop up here and there when you're doing this process, so I'm happy to help out beyond this video. But this video pretty much goes through everything you need to know in terms of flashing the Motorola Edge Plus, and rooting the Motorola Edge Plus. If you found this video helpful, be sure to leave a like down below. And if, like I said, if you have any questions, put a comment down below. Or if you just want to say hi, that's cool too. And if you think some of your friends might find this video helpful, feel free to go ahead and share the video with them so that they can learn how to do this process as well. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Smile because you and technology are amazing. And peace out.